All right, 18 weeks has led up to this. We are here for Wild Card Weekend on a special edition of the DFS Deli. A familiar face from earlier in the year has returned, and we're going to break down all the predictions that we can muster up on a special playoff prediction episode of the DFS Deli. So, pull up a chair, have a seat, grab your favorite adult beverage, and come on in. Time for the deli, baby. Welcome in to a special edition of the DFS Deli. I, of course, am your proprietor of this delicatessen, Saleh Ali Shaheed, and back from the No Broken Legs podcast, Evan, and I'm going to butcher the last name, but correct it, Belfiore? Belfiore, got it. It's close enough, baby. So if you check out us here at the DFS Deli, make sure to check out my boy Evan and my other buddy Jimmy on No Broken Legs. They break down everything you need to know from a betting standpoint to get you those sweet, sweet playoff ducats. But I get to talk to you first, Evan, because we did a special midseason episode kind of predicting what we thought the playoff landscape was going to shake out to be. And I couldn't have been.
What are you talking about? We got them all right.
Yeah, every last one. Every last one of them. But first off, man, Evan, how you been? How's everything going in your life, bro?
It's going really well. Podcast has been going well. Jimmy and I have been making picks. It wasn't the best of years for us, but some future bets came through last week. I had to hedge against some future bets because Atlanta and Jacksonville just really made me sad. But we're plus going into the playoffs, and we'll searching for that 6-0 weekend. Used to be the 4-0 weekend, which was hard enough, but now it's 6-0, which is damn near impossible.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a couple friends text me after the Ravens-Steelers game, and I said, you better bet the house on the Tennessee Titans tomorrow. You better bet your mortgage on the Titans tomorrow, because ain't no way the Steelers are missing the playoffs now. And lo and behold, my king, in his last hurrah, put the Jaguars to bed. Shout out to Derrick Henry, my favorite running back of all time. If this truly is your last snap as a Tennessee Titan, we are going to miss the holy hell out of you. I don't know where he ends up next year. Maybe he retires. I heard he was battling some CTE issues. But shout out
seeing
to him.
What the running back market was last offseason, I can't imagine it's going to be better this offseason, even for somebody like Derrick Henry. I mean, he's just old. He's got a lot of miles, and you can probably get 90% of the production of Derrick Henry in a 5th-round pick.
I was going to say in the 5th or 6th round.
You won't get the peak. I mean, I think Derrick Henry next year could still be good enough to win you 2 or 3 games, but that's about all you're getting out of him is 2 or 3 games. The rest of the season, he's going to be a liability.
I think that's what they're going to expect as well. I mean, you got guys like Zeke that came in this year. He had a couple spike games, but what were you actually expecting with him over the long term? And I mean, but again, you got guys like Dalvin Cook that completely flamed out and ended up, well, nice on a playoff roster. So, I mean, good for him, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know what that's going to do for them. It didn't seem to work out for the Jets, so I don't know why it's going to work out now.
Hey, man, as long as you got somebody that can hold on to the ball that doesn't fumble a la Melvin freaking Gordon. That makes me call into question. We don't need to talk about the Ravens this week because they actually have a bye. But, Melvin Gordon in the rain, what did you think was going to happen? That was a guarantee this is a turnover coming. But I digress. But you're here.
They just didn't want Gus Edwards to be on the field. That was really what that was all about.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're here to help me kind of sift through the six wild card games that we got going on this weekend and kind of give you and the viewers and the listeners some initial thoughts about what could potentially happen this weekend. So before we get into that, you and I text along with Jimmy, but you and I really go back and forth about a lot of things because we're heavily opinionated about some stuff. Before we get into the games, I kind of want to have a short, very quick, brief, hopefully, debate about a couple of awards that are going to be handed out here shortly for regular season. Two in particular that I'm really not concerned about because I think we know the obvious winners, but I have a gripe against both of them, and I kind of want to get your opinion on the matter. So
I'm interested in what your gripe is.
I'll start with the lesser subject. Comeback player of the year. So obviously, Damar Hamlin's been favored since Timbuktu. Like as soon as he
He was like
was
minus 210 to start the season.
yeah, and it really hasn't. Like the only people that have snuck up is our own Joe Flacco, who came from the couch and now he's on the field leading a playoff team, and Damar Hamlin, who died and now he's not dead. So my gripe, of course, and I want to get your opinion here, is that Damar Hamlin was active for 5 games. He's recorded 2 whole tackles this entire year. There should
Played
be
about 110 snaps.
Yeah, there should be a separate award or category. And I mean, I condone what Damar Hamlin has been doing for the community. I definitely appreciate everything that he's done towards getting training, CPR training, things like that in not just the NFL level, but in high school, college level. Like what he's done is remarkable. This
simply
award
the awareness of heart issues in general. My mom worked in a cardiology lab doing stress tests as a nurse for 20 plus years. So heart disease is #1 killer of Americans. So to raise awareness to that and make sure that people are starting to take their heart health a little more seriously is great in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. But that doesn't deserve comeback player of the year.
That's a different award though.
Really different award. And that's my gripe. So if I had, because my ticket obviously won't be cashed because my ticket from the very beginning of the year was Baker Mayfield, and that's not going to happen.
That's actually who I think really deserves this award.
So we agree. Okay, all right, we good.
And I'll explain the Joe Flacco thing. I understand the Joe Flacco thing, and I understand the Damar Hamlin thing. It's a great story, but there has to be, if you want this award to matter in the future, if you want this award to be legitimate, it has to mean something. Mm-hmm. And Damar Hamlin's played 5 games. He's played about 110 snaps. And I know Joe Flacco has been really instrumental in winning and helping the Browns make the playoffs, but he's played 5 games. He hasn't even played a third of the season.
Correct.
So next year, what if Nick Chubb comes back and plays 5 games and just racks up 950 yards with like 11 touchdowns, no fumbles, and is just a madman? And then he gets hurt and misses the rest of the season. Is he the comeback player of the year next year then?
Well, he
was a madman for 5 games. That's that would be an even higher bar than Joe Flacco has set in his 5 games because he's been pretty good. He's been great once and pretty good, and then okay in 2 games.
Right. I think this year's been kind of watered down because there wasn't a lot of stories to latch on to. Next year, you're going to have Herbert coming back from injury, Burrow coming back from injury, Nick Chubb coming back from injury, along with a slew of other Kirk Cousins. There's going to be a lot of guys that is starting quarterbacks that are coming back next year. So that award is really going to be up for grabs. But like you said, the meaningfulness of it this year, because it was watered down last year when Geno Smith won it, remember? Because it was...
I thought that was worthy. Geno was terrible.
There was no other stories, is what I'm saying. There was no other...
Although I guess if you say comeback player, that would mean they were good and then they weren't good and now they're good again. So in Geno's case, he was never good. So it couldn't have been a comeback. It would just be, he's finally good.
Right. He came back from, second string and he became first string.
He was almost out of the league.
Yeah, I mean, I get it from a story perspective, but there was nobody else there.
But that's what these awards have been, and that's what these awards have become, and we just sort of just go along with it. It's about the story. It's about the narrative. Mm-hmm. I talked Jimmy's head off about this a couple of years ago. The last time I bet an award was Mahomes for MVP, and it was the year that Aaron Rodgers just stole the MVP the last 2 weeks of the season because Green Bay was sort of a fringe playoff team. Meanwhile, Mahomes has Kansas City at 15-1. He doesn't even have to play the last week. And he was amazing that year. And in week 14, it was Mahomes as the odds-on MVP. And then all of a sudden you get this big media swell. So as a bettor, I think your money's better placed in over-unders for win totals because I think it's easier to win money that way because like just this year alone, like we can argue about how good Baker was in terms of the league, but Tampa Bay was supposed to be terrible.
I
Like, they
mean,
were supposed to be
deplorable.
Caleb Williams sweepstakes terrible. Their
Absolutely.
over-under was like 5.5.
Mhm.
So nobody thought they were going to be good. Baker got signed for $4 million. He made half his money in that win they just got.
Just in the win. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
So it just feels like the media is finding a way to run with the now story, but they're losing the plot of what this award really should be, which is who really came back, like who came
Mm-hmm.
back and played a full season and was good over the course of a full season. And
Correct.
Tampa Bay has like the second most expected yards per pass in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Baker's been good. He's been good.
that's not
I
to say
mean,
Baker's a top 5 guy. He's been playing like a 10-ish, like kind of like he was in 2020. He's the 8th to
mm-hmm.
12th best quarterback in the league, and sometimes he can be like maybe the 5th or 6th quarterback on a day, like best quarterback that day.
Mm-hmm.
But he's, to lead into that game, he's beat up. So, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there with them in Philly. Everybody seems to be beat up in that game. Tampa
Right.
can't move the ball. Philly can't stop anybody. So that'll be a classic, the reverse of what we normally say. So it would be the
Stoppable
stoppable
force
force
the
against the
moving object.
movable
Oh, yeah.
object.
The movable object. Yeah. Very true. Very true.
It just
So we're kind
nothing
of in
ever
agreement.
happens.
Yeah, we kind of agree on that then. So we both agree that it should be a full body of work, a full season
5
of
games
work.
is too few. I know there's no limitation on that for the writers, so they're just it's gonna go to Joe Flacco probably or DeMar Hamlin because the story's there, not because the award actually means anything. So
absolutely. And like I said, I'm just sad that my ticket won't cash for that futures because I got it hot. I got Baker Mayfield at I got to check FanDuel
he was
Sportsbook again.
over. He was, I think, when we did our over-unders preseason pod for all the divisions, I think it was like plus 2,200.
Oh yeah, it was around that area. I was like, "Where's Baker?" Oh, and I kept scrolling. I'm like, there he is. Let me throw a hot 10 on that real quick. But the other hot 100 that I'm gonna lose is the MVP one because obviously, as we spoke at the middle of the year, I put 2 MVP bets in. I put the one for Christian McCaffrey, which his touchdown kind of terror tapered off, but I kind of understood, especially since he sat last week and then the week before he got hurt. So I kind of get that. But it was the emergence of Lamar Jackson and more so Lamar Jackson's winning is what really kind of propelled him to basically be this year's MVP. I mean, it's going to happen. Like Lamar's going to be the MVP.
Well, it was the head-to-head nature of it too. It felt like this was built up as an MVP matchup when it was Lamar versus San Francisco, and then when they went and played Miami, him
the
versus
Miami
Tua, it was the MVP thing. So I don't necessarily agree with how they're deciding this. I do think Lamar's probably the most valuable player. Him and Dak would be probably on the short list because Dak's been sensational this year. I know they get schooled by San Francisco every time they play them, but Dak has been fantastic. They've blown out. They've had 9 20-plus point wins.
Oh, yeah.
They'll
put it on you.
The shit out of bad teams. And he's been great and put up some gaudy numbers. But it seems like it's going to the right person this year with Lamar, especially with how much that offense is geared around his threat to run the football from the quarterback position. It just really creates mismatches and it creates a lot of problems that defenses have been adjusting the last few years. And this is the 3rd straight year points have gone down. And your quarterback's ability to run and take advantage of spaces that are created with the way they're coveraging now, the way they're running coverages now, where they're running different zone concepts on each side of the field. It opens up some areas that if you have a mobile quarterback, then you can actually make some hay and find ways to exploit that. But so in that aspect, I think Lamar has been the MVP this year. So I don't have any problems with that, but I do have problems with past issuances of this award.
Right. And I mean that's where my beef and let me preface this, bias will come in. Okay. So here we go. Hear me out, and then feel free to rebuttal, and then we can get into the games. Okay. So my argument against Dakota Prescott was that the Dallas Cowboys last year, even pre-injury, were winning games with Cooper Rush. They weren't winning games despite Cooper Rush. So I'm not saying Cooper Rush is some kind of world-beating quarterback, because Dakota has been incredible this year. Props to him coming out and saying, I'm not throwing 10 interceptions this year. He threw 9. He's been great. Highest TD to interception ratio in the league. Props. But, it's the key wins that kind of concern me, and the key losses, because the big knock on Dallas basically all this year, and Miami to a lesser extent, was y'all ain't beat nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've boat raced bad teams, like you've mentioned, but when they faced stiffer competition, it was, like, what happened? Like, I can throw that Cardinals game out. Like, that's just a fluke. Like,
every team has
those things happen. Yeah, those things happen. Okay, but it was, he had the defining game against Philly. I get it. But boat race by the 49ers, lost to the Dolphins, and the stats, yes, are there, but it's just those key defining wins, right?
Yeah.
Again, he could be replaced by Cooper Rush, and then the Cowboys would be a par team, certainly not a subpar team, but a par team capable of winning games like he proved. Last year, in Lamar's case, is that we had the Tyler Huntley experience, and it didn't seem like anything changed. I mean, this team was still humming on offense. This team was
I wouldn't say they were humming on offense.
Bro,
they could move the ball consistently, but Tyler Huntley wasn't Lamar.
Everyone was playing Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley was putting up numbers. Remember, in a short sample, even though it doesn't mean anything, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler. Like, this man did make the Pro Bowl.
Man, Mac Jones was like the 7th alternate to the Pro Bowl one year. Like, nobody cares about Pro Bowls. Congratulations.
I thought Mac Jones actually went.
Yeah, no, he was like the 7th alternate. There were like 4 quarterbacks ahead of him that passed.
Right, but I'm saying that the Ravens were a fumble on the goal line to Cincinnati away from being in the AFC Championship game.
That's true, but that was because their defense was really good, and not to say their defense isn't really good this year. But
good, yeah.
I would say about Dak, there are 2 plays that account for less than 1 foot of actual space that if they go the other way, I think we're talking about Dak a lot differently and the Cowboys a lot differently. And that's when Dak was running to the sidelines and he stepped out of bounds by like half a foot.
This is true.
Or not even. I mean, it was 6 inches. Yeah, that's half a foot. And then the play against Miami before the fumble with the fullback, that dude was like, he wasn't in, but he was not even an eighth of an inch short of the goal line when
he got Tony Pollard's run.
I forget exactly who it was, but somebody was like almost in the end zone, and then they reviewed it, and it was like, oh, he actually is not in the end zone. It's at like the 2-inch line.
Yeah, because Tony Pollard's full ass was in the end zone, and then he left the ball with his body.
those two plays go the other way. You know, it's just a very different story. Dallas is the 1 seed, and we're saying, oh, well, if they get San Francisco at home, can they actually do it? Not that I think they can. I think San Francisco just has their number. But the important thing for Dallas is they're on the opposite side of the bracket. Yeah. And you're looking at, well, we'll talk about the Rams here in a little bit. But, I mean, if you're Dallas, your best case scenario is San Francisco has to play the Rams, and the Rams beat them, and you have to beat the Rams. Because I think that matches up better for Dallas than San Francisco.
That's definitely the best case scenario.
But I also don't think Dallas's defense this year is as good as it was last year. I think they were pretty great last year, and I think this year they're just good. They haven't dropped off much, but defenses across the league have gotten better. So Dallas not being quite, even if Dallas was as good as they were last year, collectively the league has gotten better. So they're sort of maybe look a little worse comparatively.
Right. I say all that to say this. Cowboys minus Dak, they're an okay team. Ravens minus Lamar, they're an okay team. With those two, it makes them elite. With, of course, who I'm about to mention, Josh Allen. With Kyle Allen, the Bills are behind the Jets in the standings.
Yeah, but Kyle Allen's terrible.
Exactly.
He's not even remotely an NFL quarterback.
Josh Allen does way more for this team than any other quarterback probably, debatably, does for their respective team.
Yeah, but he's also the reason they lost a lot of games.
He's also the reason they've won all 11 games. minus the Dallas game because that was all the running game. Like Kyle Allen could have won that game, but
Yeah.
with this, the stats are there compared to Lamar. He has 15 more total touchdowns than him. He has more passing yards, albeit in one more game. He has 300 less rushing yards, but again, like I said, the discrepancy between their rushing and their passing, Josh Allen has 5 more passing touchdowns, 10 more rushing touchdowns. And if, let's say, the losses go the other way, like let's say that 12th man isn't in the Bronco game and they actually miss the field goal. Let's say Gabe Davis runs the right way and they actually win that Philly game.
No, that's fair. They've had a couple of games where it's like I said about Dallas. If you take, 6 inches here, 3 inches here, a bounce of the ball here.
Of course.
And hey, man, I was sweating out their 10.5 over under all goddamn years. So no, I think you make a good case. You make a good case for Josh Allen. I think the problem with Josh Allen as the MVP is he's also the source of a lot of their problems. And maybe the real issue with that team is they need somebody to do more. Like that offense can't just be him be great. Because you're not that's what's so difficult for them in the playoffs is he has to just be Superman for 4 straight games. And that's really difficult. It's just really difficult to play at 100 for 4 straight games. Like this isn't Madden. This is real life. And those guys are getting hit and defenses are complex and they're scouting you and they know exactly what you're going to do when they put you in certain circumstances. So like Mike Tomlin's just sitting at home coming up with ways to bait Josh Allen into interceptions, and he's probably going to be successful at it. But I think
he go throw some picks, bro. He go throw some picks.
It is interesting for you to say that Josh Allen's a bigger part of the Bills' offense than anybody else in the league because of how Lamar-centric Baltimore is with their offense. But I actually think you're right. Like Josh Allen has to do more. He doesn't have nearly the running back help that Lamar has, and receiver wise, I think they're pretty equal. I do like Mark Andrews better, and this rookie that they've been playing with him being hurt likely has played very well. I think he's afforded himself very nicely, and is as a Browns fan, that's something that worries me because if you can put 2 tight end sets out there where they can both catch the ball, that's a scary thing to think about because when we saw New England do that, they looked unstoppable because that's where Lamar likes to throw the ball is down the seams and down the middle.
Oh yeah.
That's a scary proposition if you can run those 2 guys out there. But that's a problem for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So the problem for this year is that we'll get into it right now. Like I said, I just want to get my Josh Allen should be the MVP of the league, but he won't spiel out there.
No, but, it's going to be Lamar, but I think you have a case to make. I think Allen has a case to make. I think Dak has a case to make, and it's not going to be considered because this is the media environment we're in, which is why I will again recommend all of your listeners, like I do for all the No Broken Legs listeners, do not bet any of these awards.
Yeah.
Except in the Super Bowl. That's the only time. Bet on whoever the quarterback is of the team you think is going to win the Super Bowl because that's almost assuredly going to be the MVP.
Yeah, it's just like minus whatever it's going to be for this year. I mean, I get it. It's a sure thing. Without
always check those odds with the money line odds for the team. So,
sure.
And then get the better odds.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of a Cleveland problem, we'll talk about our first game of the wild card weekend because first up on the docket as the palate cleanser on Saturday afternoon at 4:30, Cleveland Browns headed to the Houston Texans, the now CJ Stroud-led Houston Texans, unlike their first matchup. It is 44.5 as the total. Houston is going to be plus 120 on the money line, minus 145 for the Brownies. And the Browns got started at minus 1.5, but they've been bet up to minus 2.5 now. All the odds are courtesy of BetMGM. What's going to happen? Are we really favored in this game with Joe Flacco-led Browns?
I'm truly shocked when I saw this line because CJ Stroud has been so good. And I think a lot of people may be looking at what happened in that first game and maybe taking that a little too seriously because it wasn't just the fact that CJ Stroud was out. Houston was missing their top 2 defensive pass rushers. That makes a big difference. So they're not going to let I assume they're not going to let Amari Cooper just run wild like they did last time. So
Yeah, I would hope not, but there's
I
got to be a
just
game plan for Amari.
the thing that has me most concerned about this game is listening to local Cleveland media be so confident in this game. And not just confident that the Browns are the better team, but confidence that Joe Flacco is better than CJ Stroud, which just seems very odd. And the last 20 plus years of being a Browns fan has told me that when there's this collective notion that the Browns are assuredly something, that is almost like, oh, that is just a huge warning sign that the team, they are not that thing.
Right.
Because people just like to hope, they like to be emotional about these things, and I get it. But we're talking about gambling here, so emotion can't play a factor in that. And
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what's going to happen in this game because nothing the Browns did defensively is going to translate because Case Keenum can't throw the ball more than 5 yards downfield. And CJ Stroud's ability to stretch the field without turning the ball over is something to watch. They don't have a very good offensive line, so he knows how to get the ball out quickly. So that's something to look for very, very early in that game is do the Browns get home or is Stroud getting the ball out to his receivers?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm like kind of trying to figure out right now. Because like I said, I don't know who's going to win this game. I just it would be shocking to me if Joe Flacco continues to play as well as he has. That is what is the most extraordinary thing about what's happened is how good he's been. He's turning the ball over a ton, but if he's going to be connecting on 3 or 4 deep shots a game, you can live with a turnover or two.
Mm-hmm. I got news for you, man. The Houston Texans are the exact same team as the Cleveland Browns. The exact same team.
I think
Nico
the
Collins.
Texans are better offensively, and the Browns are a little better defensively, though.
I mean, Nico Collins is Amari Cooper. I mean,
Yeah.
Joe Flacco is what he used to think he was when CJ Stroud is. Both have beat up offensive lines. Both have questionable injuries on the defensive line, but they do have one stud on each edge rusher. There is no second receiver because Tank Dell and Noah Brown are hurt. And then
Now, Elijah Moore is going to
Dr.
be back this
Schultz.
week. The Browns' problems are solved. Elijah, he's back.
Right. David Njoku is basically Dalton Schultz. Their running game, sus. Both running games are sus. You know the difference is Houston's playing at home, and then the Browns are not. So, as a resident Browns fan, don't let the Bills stuff fool you. I am a Browns fan as well, even though this is my horse in the race. There is so much money bet on the Browns right now that it makes me want to do the exact opposite and bet Houston this game. I want to my pride, my heart, my soul wants to see the Browns win. Of course I do. But this is a different Texans team than it was the one you beat down a couple weeks ago. Like Stroud is that guy. He's that guy. I mean, simple as that. So if I were a betting man, which of course I am, this 2.5 is sus. I would take the money line with the Texans. I think the Texans are going to win this game. I hate to say it. My heart hates to say it. I think the Texans are going to win.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what Jimmy has to say about this game on our pod because he's been on Houston all year. He had their over. He was all over CJ Stroud being good. He explained why he thought he would be good. He said a lot of the concepts that they ran at Ohio State would translate for him into the NFL. And boy, oh boy, was Jimmy right. Mm-hmm. He's just, again, it comes back to the turnovers. To be as effective throwing the ball downfield as he is and not turn the ball over, it's just, you see Flacco do it. He can't go more than 4 passes without putting the ball in jeopardy. Correct. So what's going to happen there? I think the home field advantage is going to be interesting. How many Browns fans go to this game and how many Texans fans are at this game? Because you know Browns fans are going to want to travel, and it's just a question of how well will they travel. How much is Houston going to let that happen? I just want to also know what Houston did to deserve the 4:00 weekend slot on Saturday when they make the playoffs. Like, they may as well just pencil that in.
Right.
If Houston makes the playoffs, they get the 4:30 game on Saturday for reasons.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the 44
I guess I would say right now I'm leaning Houston with the points. Mm-hmm. And especially the tidal wave going towards Cleveland. Like, it's just setting up like we've seen so many times before. It's so difficult to see that and not, like, as a bettor go, oh man, like I'm getting odds and points with Houston. Like if this ended up being a 1 point game, nobody would be surprised. And you're going to give me an extra point and a half. Like if I wait 2 days, is it going to get to 3.5? At 3.5, I love Houston.
Oh yeah, that's it. Fire that up. Big time. Big time. You like the 44.5?
You almost have to.
Yeah,
Because I think
I like it too.
these teams are going to push the ball down the field, so you're going to get some big plays and you're going to get some turnovers, so that should lead to some scoring drives. And
Right.
this, you know, what 27-24 get you there by plenty, 24-20 basically get you there, so 24-21 does get you there, which I think is a likely outcome of this game's 24-21 one way or the other.
Yeah, and I mean we're indoors too, so no weather concerns. So I mean
Yeah.
it should be. I like the over, and again Houston with the points, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll slide over to a game that does have weather concerns. Miami and Kansas City will be your
It's going to be
nightcap.
so cold.
Yep, Miami's traveling to Kansas City. 44-point spread right now. Miami is plus 140 on the money line, minus 210 for the Kansas City Chiefs, and the ghost of the Miami Dolphins are in the playoffs against the shell of the Kansas City Chiefs. Who do you got and why?
Oh man, I have no idea. This is one of those Vincini from The Princess Bride. I kind of think Kansas City's cooked. I think they have real problems that can't be solved, and I think they start with Travis Kelce. Just he's kind of old and beat up, and that's not to say that he isn't one of the best tight ends in the league. He still is. He's just not a historically great tight end.
Mm-hmm.
And without other help receiving around him, they haven't found ways to crack defenses and how they're shifting coverages around to really cover large sections of the field and adapting to what offenses are doing with spacing. So he can't win one-on-one matchups as frequently as he used to, but it's also going to be negative 10 degrees with the wind chill, maybe colder. And I don't know what Miami is going to look like when they have to face those types of weather conditions. Like it's going to be, they're very finesse. Mostert's probably not going to be playing in this game, and for some reason they don't want to give Ashane the ball. I don't know why Ashane wasn't running the ball more in that game against Buffalo. McDaniel got pass happy like we've seen Shanahan get, like we've seen Stefanski and a lot of other coaches get. If that's going to be his game plan, I don't like Miami at all in this game because it's going to open up drops. It's going to be cold. It's tough to catch the ball. And those guys just don't like playing in the cold. Like Tua's never really played in cold weather. And it's one thing to say you've never played in cold weather and then go play when it's 25 degrees and maybe a little snowy. But it's going to be negative.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Negative
it's
10.
Negative 10. Different. That's a whole other ball game. Like it's going to be brutal.
Oh yeah, the under is shining in this game. 44.5 or 44
I
points
couldn't
is way
believe
too
that
much.
number.
I couldn't believe that
number. And I would, just in terms of if you do daily fantasy for this weekend, I would shy away from both of these two teams. Maybe Pacheco. Maybe Pacheco is somebody I would maybe put in my lineup because I think this is a game where he'll get a lot of carries. Because you can run on that Miami defense.
Yeah, this is going to be a game where I think Kansas City is going to go ahead and establish the run like they've been kind of hinting at over the past couple weeks. Taking out week 18. But like if they can establish the run with Isaiah Pacheco and just play solid defense like they've been doing pretty much the entirety of the year, they don't have to throw to these bums. I mean, they don't have to throw to guys that can't catch. So
I mean, Rice might be okay.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game where they can just control the flow of the game, and like you said, the conditions do not favor Miami whatsoever.
No.
I was on this podcast 2 weeks ago when the Ravens were playing the Dolphins, and I said to my buddy, and we got in a big old argument about it, which is fine. I said that Dolphins game against the Ravens is a must win because if you leave the division up to the Bills, A, you're going to lose, and B, you're going to end up going to Kansas City to a matchup that you don't want. I mean, like, this is not the smoke you want. Now they got to go in
Kansas
negative
City beat them earlier in the year.
No. Yeah, they've already let him hold the L. So it's like,
and I think that game was in Miami. I don't exactly remember, but I'm pretty sure that game was in Miami.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, Kansas City did beat them. But it's like, and again, we got the fraud alert weeks ago. Miami hasn't beat anybody but Dallas.
No, they're 1-5 against, and they really got lucky in that game, I think, with the turnover by the fullback.
Yeah, I mean, there was
Pollard on the 1-inch line.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then CeeDee Lamb. Wasn't that the game CeeDee Lamb had a fumble in the end zone? Or was that Detroit? That might have been the Detroit game.
That was the Detroit game. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There's just been a lot of those like random little plays that can go one way or the other that have gone against Dallas in games I've seen, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, I
But
think
yeah,
this.
I guess that's a game where I'm kind of favoring Kansas City. Again, these are I really like bouncing stuff off of Jimmy because we sort of help shape each other's picks.
Mhm.
But yeah, I definitely like Kansas City on the money line here. I think that's a team that's going to win. I don't see how Miami can win this game. It just doesn't look like a game that suits their style at all. And they're
Yeah,
just 1-5 against teams with winning records. Like they're a bad good team. They're a good team, but they're bad against other good teams.
right. I like the under. I like the under 44, and I like Kansas City to cover. I think Miami's going to
Wow.
get absolutely obliterated. I don't think they stand a puncher's chance again in this game. Honestly,
Yeah.
um, I think Miami would have preferred playing Buffalo again. At
Yeah, I
least
mean
they
that
would
probably would have been a better matchup,
for
I
them.
guess.
They would have been at home. They would have played them back to back weeks. Like it would have been better. But the thing about that game, if that would have happened, is that the Bills Mafia wouldn't have left town. They just would have
No,
been like,
they just stay there.
another week in Florida. Speaking of the Mafia, the 1 o'clock game on Sunday is going to be Pittsburgh traveling to Buffalo. Buffalo 10-point favorites in this one. A putrid 36.5 total with plus 400 for Pittsburgh on the money line, minus 550 for the Bills on their money line. Buffalo, the anti-Miami Dolphins, they're 5-1 against playoff teams. And I think they're peaking at the right time, of course. I think that the Steelers do have some stuff going on because they have learned to establish the run with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. And they let Mason Rudolph pick his shot. So basically, he's just chunking the ball deep. That's what he's
Yeah.
doing. It's handoff, short stuff. And I'm going to give you one ride to Deontay Johnson or one ride to Kenny Pickett or George Pickens, excuse me. And that's their offense.
I
Their
mean, that's a good
defense,
strategy for at
yeah,
least for
it's a
their
great
personnel.
strategy. It's a great strategy, but their defense is going to be missing a key player as TJ Watt does have an MCL sprain. So he's out of this game. And that was 18 of their 40 some odd sacks on the year. That's gone.
Yeah,
So,
you can look at Pittsburgh's win-loss record when TJ Watt's on the field and when he's not, and it's a noticeable difference. The defense gives up about 4 or 5 more points a game. It's going to be real tough for Pittsburgh to win this game, but on the other hand, does Josh Allen throw 3 interceptions? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Is he going to throw 2 pick sixes or have a fumble that gets returned for a touchdown? Maybe. I would be shocked if Pittsburgh won this game. I would also find it hilarious if Pittsburgh won this game because even if they win, everybody in Pittsburgh's still going to run Mike Tomlin out of town.
oh yeah,
And I can't
he's
wait
fired.
for it. And I'm totally here for it. Jimmy and I have been talking about it for weeks. Please get rid of Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. And you know what, Rooney, go see what you can find on that open market. Good luck.
Yeah, I hear you. I think this is one of those things where, again, I think my bias is present. However, I think that this is another weather game too. I mean, it's going to be
Yeah, it's
frigid.
going to be
It's going to be
cold,
a little
rainy,
snowy.
windy.
Yeah, but I mean, this is where the
Probably going
conditions.
to probably already leaning under and Pittsburgh with the points, just because there's probably not going to be a lot of points scored in this game. Like this could be the type of game where field goals beyond 25, 30 yards are just like you can't even try it.
Yeah, Nate, impossible.
Yeah, like if you've got the crosswind blowing, we've seen that here in games in Cleveland where it's just the wind makes it impossible to kick anything really much more than 10, 15 yards. So, a lot of these teams want to go for it on 4th down anyway. So you may see a game like that winds up being, 7-6 with one touchdown on each side and somebody misses an extra point. That'd be pretty funny. That's a game that I would advise everybody wait until day of and get a look at what the weather conditions are like. Because if the weather conditions are somewhat clear and it's just cold, then I like Josh Allen in fantasy because even though he's going to turn the ball over once or twice, he's going to put numbers up and he's going to get in the end zone. So he's going to have 3 touchdowns. He may have a pick or 2, but he's going to get to 300 total yards, and he's going to have 2 or 3 touchdowns. And you're just not going to be able to find that with anybody else except maybe the Dallas Green Bay game or Detroit Rams.
That's going to be a juicy one. But yeah, I think you start off the day kind of slow, but I think that the Bills will cover this 10. And honestly, I think the 36.5 is kind of low. Regardless, rain, sleet, or snow, I think Josh Allen's going to come through and put up some gaudy numbers against the Steelers because again, that TJ Watt injury is just too big. It's just too much for.
You said they're hitting their stride. Last week did not look like a team that was hitting its stride, nor did the New England game look like a team that was hitting its stride.
I mean, so Josh Allen is. I've heard the best comparison for Josh Allen. Josh Allen can beat the game on the hardest difficulty level only after he dies 16 times on the first level on easy. Period. I mean, that's him. That's what he does. He makes everything significantly more difficult for him. And it's like, for what? Like, I don't see quarterbacks putting up, he put up 360 plus in the air and 70 something on the ground in the Dolphins game, and they scored 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is the guy that led the NFL in touchdowns total, and they have the best offense in the league. And then it's like, statistically, and then you look at his 19 turnovers, and it's like, what if he didn't do this? Like, how many points would the Bills be hanging on people?
Yeah, they'd be 15-2.
God, without question. And again, their 6 losses were all within 6 points. So we could be talking about like an undefeated Bills team if you would just like put the difficulty on normal.
I don't like the Leonard Fournette stuff. What are your thoughts on that? I feel like he's taking touches away from Cook, and they need Cook to get going. And when he was going was when they looked the most dangerous. So it feels odd that they would take stuff away from him.
It's a trust thing. And like and I'm pretty sure at least you watched the first half of the Miami game before, like I fell asleep because I didn't care because my Bills were in the playoffs. But it's a trust thing, right? Because James Cook, this is going to be another year under his belt, but last year he wasn't the guy in the playoff run. So look at the Miami game when he dropped that easy, wide open touchdown, which led to them not getting points. It's like, what if that were Leonard Fournette? Like, this is a guy, Leonard Fournette does have Super Bowl experience. He can block the hell out of a darn pass protection, and he's going to get you 2, 3, 4 tough yards. And this is a guy that Tom Brady leaned on in the receiving game. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Leonard Fournette going 50-50 with James Cook moving forward. Like, here's your in between the 20s, and outside of those 20s, when we get in the red zone, the money zone, you're not seeing the field. Like, this is Uncle Lenny's territory. Like, he's got the proven playoff experience.
Basically do what Dallas was doing last year with Pollard and Zeke.
Bingo. You got it. So I would be shocked
can be down
if
for that.
Didn't see more.
I want to see Cook on the field between the 20s for sure because he helps them move the ball.
Yeah, but again, it's a confidence thing and a trust thing. If he catches that touchdown, it's like, all right, you're the guy. Like, I've seen you produce before. But even in his big game against Dallas, guess what? He dropped a wide open touchdown again. So it's like, what became a great day for him could have been a greater day if he would just learn how to catch the darn ball. So again, I think those are situations where they can trust a veteran like Uncle Lenny to do things like that. So yes, I hate the talent of James Cook is going to be off the field, but I do trust the experience of Leonard Fournette. So moving on, 4:30. Of course, Dallas is playing at 4:30, right? Of course.
And Green Bay.
Yep. Green Bay, it's 50.5 total for this game. Dallas 7.5 point favorites, minus 275 on the money line for Green Bay, plus 350 for Dallas. Excuse me. It's
you McCarthy. Try that again?
It's McCarthy. He's
Dallas
back against Green Bay. Oh, what did I say? Plus?
I said minus 350. Right? Yeah.
Minus 350. Excuse me.
Minus 350. Okay. Yeah.
Minus 350. My bad. I apologize. But yeah, McCarthy against Green Bay again. I don't know if that kind of narrative even matters to these guys. Green Bay is a nice story. It's a nice story, but Jordan Love has been phenomenal this year.
Yeah.
But
he's played fantastic the last 2-3 months. It's no longer a fluke.
Yeah, this is Dallas at home though. I don't really have much to keys to this game. I think Dallas beats the living crap out of the Packers on Sunday. I'm sorry. I think they cover this 7.5, and I think it's going to be relatively easy, to be honest. This 50.5 is a joke. I think it should be a lot higher than this. I think it should be at least 52.
Wow.
But yeah, I think Dallas is going to roll, and I think is this the year? Is this our year type of deal that we've been hearing
Yeah.
every year from Dallas? This is the start. So,
I think
what are
you're
your
right,
thoughts
at
on
least
this
in
game?
terms of Dallas winning. I
Okay,
would like this. I like this a lot more at 6.5. So I might go with an alt line on this. I wouldn't go with the money
okay,
line because I think Dallas is going to win this by more than a field goal for sure.
okay.
I think Green Bay's had a nice run, but I think Dallas is just really, really good at home, and that crowd's going to be good. And just what, like, I guess I still don't trust Jordan Love. He's shown it for going on 3 months now, so I guess I shouldn't. But he looked so bad at the start of the year. I keep waiting for that to kind of click back in again, and I just sort of don't believe Green Bay can get it right 3 times in a row. That would be pretty extraordinary. We haven't
Oh
seen a
yeah.
run of quarterback development like that at all. Like, they'd be singular in that. So
Mm.
I guess I trust Dallas more in this game. I still don't quite know what to do with Jordan Love. But I would assume there's going to be some points in this game. At 50 and
Oh
a
yeah.
half, Dallas is averaging more than 30 at home. Their defense
Right.
does play better at home, but this is a game where everybody will be playing all the way through. So
Mhm.
if you like Dallas to win and cover, I definitely like the over here as a play with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen Dallas's offense, flourish at home, but at the same time, they've given up big numbers to opposing offenses at home too. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw Geno Smith go for over 303 on them. So Jordan Love is, I would
At
say,
least
better than Geno at
he's
this
at least
point,
as
and he's
good.
got
You
better
don't have the
weapons.
receivers though.
Yeah, I mean, but they've got young receivers. But the thing they do have on their side is they're young and dumb. Like I think they could just play with reckless abandon in this game, not really expecting to win, and they could all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden be up, 14-10, 14-7 and say, "Hell, we could do this. I mean, we could beat this team." And then they end up losing by 21, which is probably going to happen, but still, man, I got to take Dallas in this one. I hate to say it because I don't like that team, but this is my money. This is what I'm trying to preach to the
Yeah, we
choir
check
here.
emotion at the door when we put money on the line.
That's it, man. That's it. Bias goes out the window. Hence why I'm picking the Texans. But yeah, man, not too much really of note to say about this game. But the big one, the nightcap, L.A., Detroit, Goff, Stafford, the return of Matt Stafford to Detroit. Detroit is favored 3.5, minus 185 on the money line, plus 150 for the Rams. The Rams, the hottest team, one of minus. I mean, the
Yeah.
Bills, same thing, But the Rams on the NFC side, they've won 7 of their last 8 games to get to this spot. I mean, if there's any offense that honestly I don't want to see, it's the Rams. We got a battle tested quarterback who's proven that he
Mm-hmm.
can win a Super Bowl, a battle
He's
tested
playing.
coach.
Stafford's playing really well right now too.
Yeah, I mean, you got the offensive rookie of the year here, minus CJ Stroud and Puka Nakua, who shattered all those darn records. And Cooper Kupp, again, former Super Bowl champ, consummate professional. They've got the running game with Kyron Williams. And then on the other side, Dan Campbell decided to play his guys last week and lost his all pro tight end to a knee injury. So now you're down a weapon on offense that has to keep up with this Rams
Yeah.
team. And that Detroit on defense ain't stopping nobody. I mean, like, you're talking about Nick Mullins dropped 400 yards passing on him again. Yes, granted, he gave up a bunch of interceptions, but you're talking about a team that only has 8 of those on the season, and 6 of them were to Nick Mullins. So it was like, Matt Stafford is, I would say, a significant upgrade over that guy, and they barely squeaked past those games. So my inclination is that this 3.5 is a lot. I mean, I think this
This line was
Rams team is,
shocking.
I think this Rams team is actually better than this Lions
This
team.
When I saw Cleveland favored in Houston, I was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't shocked. I was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this line, I almost broke my rule and bet right away.
Said, forget the line movement. No.
Like, I don't
Jam it.
understand. I think the Rams are the better team. I think they're the more composed team. I think Dan Campbell playing his starters last week was a mistake. I think he was kind of acting out after what happened the week before in Dallas. The whole going for two from the 7 yard line just reeked of, well, fine, we're going to go for it anyway. And it felt
That
like
one I hated. Yeah.
he kind of lost control, and he was just sort of doing things out of spite.
Hmm.
I like that they're aggressive on fourth down, but I think they might be getting a little over aggressive right now. And you don't
Hmm.
really want that to happen, especially in the playoffs against a really good Rams team that's playing well. Jimmy and I have been all over the Rams for weeks now. I think they're going to roll in this game, and I think they're going to have a matchup against San Francisco, and that's going to be a hell of a football game.
Yeah, I think Dan Campbell was trying to show his big dick energy a little too much, and it cost him his All Pro tight end. You're moving up what, a seed potentially? Did
And
you
they weren't going to
honestly
move
think?
up a seed. Dallas
Yeah, did
wasn't
you
losing
honestly
that
think the
game.
commies were gonna beat the Cowboys? Like, I get
Oh,
it, the
come on.
Giants stomped out the Eagles, but like, you come on, man. And again, even the week before, like I said, going for two from the 7 yard line, that was him literally saying, he said, I got a small dick, and was like, I'm going for it again. Like, bro, you lost, man. It's okay.
Just
It's
you
okay.
lost. Just take your ball and go home and come back the next week.
Right,
Like,
right,
don't
right.
let it carry over, and it feels like it's carrying over.
Yeah, and the thing about this, the home field advantage is that, like, yes, the Detroit fans have been fiending for a game like this for 30 years. However, why did it have to be against Matt Stafford? I mean, no matter what it is, they're going to boo, but they're not going to be like at the stakes. Like, if Matt Stafford wins, there's going to be a lot of Lions fans like, oh, at least it's Stafford. I mean, he's one of our guys, and like,
I
bro,
don't know if
the
I agree with
Rams are
all
winning
that.
this game. The Rams are winning this game.
I did
Period.
hear somebody talking about that trade in retrospect, saying that Detroit won the trade because Goff has been so good. And it made me want to drive my car into a pole with how stupid it was, because you like the Rams won a Super Bowl. They won the trade.
End of discussion. End of
Period.
discussion.
End of sentence. That's it. The argument's
End
over.
of
They won a
discussion.
Super Bowl.
Facts. Facts. They won the trade. They won the Super Bowl. End of discussion. Now, X years
If
later,
Detroit,
you get to
if
see the
Detroit,
same team against your
if,
team that you
yeah,
traded for, and you're going to lose to them.
even if Detroit beats them, it doesn't change the fact that they lost the trade. They have to win the Super Bowl. If Detroit wins the Super Bowl this year, then they can say they won the trade.
No, you can call it even. At that point, you
Uh,
can still call
I
it
don't think it's
even.
gonna matter because I think LA's gonna. I think LA's gonna roll.
I agree, 100%. This 3.5 is ridiculous. I'm definitely taking the Rams money line on that one, and 51.5 is
It's a lot of
it,
points. I think they're
it's a
gonna
lot of
score a lot of
points,
points, though.
but they're gonna score a lot of points. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would pound the over on that one as well. And then our last game, the ever beat up Philadelphia Eagles get to travel to the Fighting Baker Mayfields of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa is going to be 3-point dogs in this game, which, I mean, I
I was at the
get,
3 now.
but
I saw it was 2.5 earlier.
yeah, again,
Wow,
this
already.
was based off MGM, so I mean,
Hmm.
there's a couple books that had a little different,
Yeah, there might
but
be
I got
some
it at three.
variance.
Tampa's 135 on the money line, and Philly minus 160. Uh, Philly's beat up. AJ Brown hurt. Slim Reaper hurt. Uh, Jalen Hurts' finger is like doing one of these things. I don't know. This Philadelphia secondary can't stop anybody. Even
No,
their all world rookie is getting benched every now and then because they can't stop the run anymore. We just saw them get their asses whipped by the Giants. I mean, this is a team that's going to try to attempt something that has not been done since the year 2000 and be 1-5 going into the playoffs and actually winning a first round game. So something that hasn't happened in 23 years will not happen. Tampa's going to win this game, and Philly's going to have to be forced to reevaluate what they're doing
wow,
with their franchise. Tampa will win this
wow.
game. This is
If
that's
if
another
you
money line I got to take.
This is another one that if Baker was healthy, I would be all over Tampa. But he's not healthy right now, and he missed an open Mike Evans touchdown in that game Sunday. And that's Baker usually makes that throw, but when he's hurt, he doesn't. He just can't make those types of throws when he's injured. So, what is his health status for this game? And it's not like Tampa Bay's any good at running the ball to exploit Philly's sudden lack of ability to stop the run. It feels like ages ago that these two teams played. Philly really dominated Tampa because they dominated the line of scrimmage, but we've seen Philly not be able to do anything on either side on the lines. They
Correct.
can't run the ball. They can't stop the run. That front with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter should be able to get to the quarterback on anybody. With Reddick, there's no reason anybody should be able to run on them, and they should dominate. And that's what they were doing earlier in the year, which was making up for their problems in the secondary.
Right.
They ain't doing that anymore, and now they're just a sieve. I mean, they're going their opponents are basically putting out a top 5 quarterback every week against them. Like you said, like there's just dudes putting up like 300-yard passing games like it's nothing. Like that's just what's happening.
I mean, Tyrod Taylor didn't try. He didn't try to drop 300. I mean, this team is.
That's never good when TT's putting up 300 on you. That's not his game.
This team is broken. This team is very suspect. They've been sus the entire year. I mean, like, what was it? 10 of their games they went into halftime without the lead. I mean, this
also
is
AJ Brown.
Team. Yeah.
How's he look? Because they've been really relying on the deep ball. That's what's kept them in a lot of these games. Just like we said with the Browns and Joe Flacco, they get these deep plays and it really energizes the offense. That's what Philadelphia's been living and dying with. They can get the ball downfield to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, and when they can connect on half a dozen of those a game, that gets them enough points that their defense can hold up just enough. But I don't know. This is another game time decision for me. I'm glad it's the Monday night game because we'll get a chance to see what happens leading into it, and we'll get an idea of how healthy these guys are because that extra day will probably help Baker. This is another one I'm just super fascinated to talk to Jimmy about because he's going to have a lot to say, and I'm really excited for it.
I just think that Jimmy's more excited about our last pick because he's been calling the Lions frauds this entire year.
Oh yeah, and, the Detroit
the satisfaction, the satisfaction he'll get after Matt Stafford and the boys go in and beat up on the Lions will be. It'll bring some joy to his heart. Same with his Texans.
It wouldn't be surprising if the Browns and the Texans lost in the first weekend of the playoffs. That should be a surprise to no one.
Oh man. Obviously, as weeks go along, I will be on talking with my other friends about the next round matchups, what's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. But before we get out of here, let's just skip the middle rounds. We kind of had a discussion about it via text the other day, but who's in your Super Bowl as of today? If you had to pick a 2 horses in the race today, who's going to the Super Bowl?
I think it's going to be Baltimore in the AFC. And man, it's so hard to pick against San Francisco. It just really is because they're so good on both sides of the ball. I don't trust Brock Purdy in close games. Like I just don't. And we saw what Baltimore was able to do to them. I think I really like the Rams to make the Super Bowl this year.
The Rams are going to be so scary. My God.
Baltimore and LA is where we're heading if you were to ask me right now. And that's, man, I just don't know. Would I bet that? I don't know. I'm probably going to throw some money on LA now that I think about it because their odds are going to be pretty high.
Because if they win or when they win on Sunday, them odds is going. It's a wrap.
So that might be worth a little bit.
Yep, might as well bet it now.
That's the team I like the most. It's something about Dallas I just don't fully trust. It doesn't seem like it's their year. I know I've sort of gone back and forth on them saying like, oh, if these 4 plays of 3 inches go their way, they're 15-2, which they would be, but it doesn't seem like they're going to get those plays consistently this year. Seems like everything's a little too hard for them because Pollard's not really the guy that they were hoping he would be. He's not an every down back guy. He's just not. They got to get somebody else in there to help supplement. And that may be the future for a lot of these teams that don't have Josh Jacobs or Nick Chubb or Christian McCaffrey, et cetera, et cetera. Because there's only so many of those guys that can really carry an offense. There's maybe half a dozen to a dozen at most. And
Yeah.
everybody else has got to get by with 2. And it doesn't look like Pollard's one of those guys. Looks like you need to pair him with somebody. But luckily, you can get running back talent in the draft, so they should be able to be fine next year. But this is this year. So
Correct.
if it's going to be LA and Dallas, I think I like LA.
Well, I'm going to go the opposite because I think our AFC NFC championship game is going to be roughly the same, but I'm picking, and I hate to say it, it hurts my heart, but them boys are going to go to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
That's going to be my pick for today. I think they do get past the Rams. I'm with you on the Rams team because I think the Rams can beat the 49ers. And the thing that the Cowboys need to get to the Super Bowl is to avoid the 49ers. Because if that matchup happens, then the 49ers are going to the Super Bowl. But if any team can beat the 49ers, it's the Rams. So I'm going to go with Dallas and the Rams in your NFC Championship game. Dallas can beat the Rams. And then on the AFC side, of course, I'm maintaining my complete bias. The Buffalo Bills will be in the Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys. I love the way that a Ravens-Bills AFC Championship game matches up right now. I think that it's just everyone in the AFC doesn't strike me as a team that could run the gauntlet like the Rams do on the NFC side. Like, the Chiefs are a shell. Miami stinks. Houston is young. Cleveland is beat up and thanks to their quarterback, old. And Lamar hasn't done it in the playoffs yet either. So you're going to get to a point where it's push and pull between like who's been there and who can step up at the right moments. I think Buffalo is more than capable of going to Baltimore and getting it done this year. I just think that now that the team of destiny thing is kind of off their back and it's kind of shifting to maybe the Ravens because they've been so good this year. But again, even on the NFC side, remember the last time the Ravens were tested and the last time the Rams lost was an overtime punt return to the Rams. So, I mean, this team...
I forgot all about that.
Right? This team has already proven they could beat the best team in the AFC. So why can't they beat any other team in the NFC? I want to put money on the Rams now too, but I'm still picking the Cowboys. Cowboys, Bills, Super Bowl right now. That would be my futures ticket if I were to throw a hundo on anything as of today. So,
well, I mean, if we're talking what my wallet is hoping happens, I'm hoping that Kansas City wins because that'll make my futures bets cash in, but I don't think that's going to happen.
It's time to hedge, Ev. It's time to hedge.
Well, it's about point differential really matters. Yeah. And when you look at the teams that have the highest point differentials, you're talking about the Bills, plus 140, the Ravens, plus 203. I know the Dolphins are at plus 105, but you got to remember, like, half of that was that Denver game when they put the 70 burger up.
Exactly.
So that is an outlier, and I know that number matters, but it doesn't quite mean what it looks like it means. They've been in a lot more games that were closer than you think of. They just had this one oddball. And then you've got Dallas at plus 194 and San Francisco at plus 193. So in terms of betting for your audience, I will tell them what I will tell my audience. The Super Bowl winner is probably coming from one of those 4 teams. That is what history tells us. That you've got to be 150 or higher in your point differential. So that would be, if you're looking for the trend, that would be the trend to make, the trend bet to make.
Right.
It just looks like it's been a weird year. So I think if you're going to bet chaos, this is the year to do it. We've just seen, I mean, Indianapolis was almost in the playoffs, man. Pittsburgh's in the playoffs. Those 2 teams stink.
Yeah, that's what happens when you give an extra spot too. I mean,
I think this extra spot is turning into a moneymaker, but it's a lot like what we saw with Major League Baseball being primarily on cable. Like, yes, you're making a bunch of money on it, but you're eroding a little bit of your support and goodwill amongst your fan base. And you may even be losing a few people due to oversaturation. So I know the NFL is still king and everything's going great money-wise, but it's the little things that build up over 10 to 15 years that topple these leagues or at least make them less popular. Like, baseball was super popular, and then all of a sudden, 15 years later, it's the 3rd most popular sport in the country, with hockey overtaking it as the 4th in a lot of places.
Hey, man, I'm just going to say that NFL did I don't know if it was NFL in particular, but these networks did a smart thing because guess what? Peacock is about to make an ass load of money.
Oh, yeah. You have to sign up for Peacock for their,
are on Peacock exclusively, and you know the Swifties is about to pay up that $5.99 to watch Travis Kelce. So you want to
So
talk
they have
about
to pay. You
figures?
have to pay for
There
the
it is.
game. It's not on the regular Peacock with ads or
Peacock Premium.
whatever.
It's on Premium. Yep.
It's only on Premium.
$5.99.
Yeah. So like I said, this is a moneymaker
Pay up.
for them. Oh yeah, there's going to be
Pay
like
up.
watch parties of Swifties, and they're going to make millions and laugh all the way to
Without
the
question.
bank.
Without question. Well, I've already had Peacock because I watch WWE, and the Rumble is in a couple weeks, so like whatever. I'm not a Swiftie, just watching Peacock for the game. Okay, so any closing thoughts before we get out of here, man? It's been a great time. It's been fun.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, it's been a crazy year. We've seen a lot of very odd things happen. There was a lot of stability in who was good and who wasn't, and we've seen a lot of that topple, mainly because defenses have adjusted to what offenses do. So you get closer games, lends itself to more variance, which is how you get a weird year like this. I mean, Buffalo has been in the top 5 offensively and defensively of the non-points win-loss, like other than win-loss. They were a top 5 team on each side of the ball, and yet they were like barely hanging on for a while.
We could have missed the playoffs. Could have missed the playoffs.
Joe,
on week 18.
I put hashtag Joe Flacco in several No Broken Legs podcast posts. Like, that's something I never thought was going to happen. The Jacksonville Jaguars look like they were on their way to making a deep playoff run. Trevor Lawrence gets a little nicked up, and they lose Christian Kirk to injury, and they just fall off the face of the earth. And now we're questioning, well, maybe Doug Peterson isn't as good a coach as we thought he did. Maybe they just caught fire in Philly, and everything just they just rode the wave.
Yeah.
So I think this is the year that as a bettor, you can maybe take some more swings than you normally would, because it looks like there's going to be a lot more variance in how these games play out. So if you get a feeling about something, or if you think somebody's ripe, like we think the Rams are, so you can bet a small amount of money on the Rams
and win a large amount
and set yourself up to win a large amount, or set yourself up to be in a situation where you can bet against the Rams with your boosts and build a small parlay where now you're guaranteeing yourself a win regardless of what you do, which is really, that's what I like to do. I like to win. I like to win money. I don't care if it's a little bit of money or if it's a ton of money. Obviously, a ton of money is better than a little bit of money, but I like winning money better than I like losing money.
A win is a win.
Period. Yeah. So like we were joking before the podcast, I did some hedging. So don't be afraid to hedge on your Super Bowl picks. Just make sure you make some money, because if that bet loses, you're going to be like, God damn it, I should have just put like $10 on team X to beat the team I had a whole bunch of money on. So be smart. Hedge, don't get caught up in the macho BS, because that's what the casinos want you to do. They want you to make that decision based on emotion. So don't be emotional with these picks. Right. If you like a team like the Browns can beat anybody. They could lose to anybody in the playoffs, but they could beat anybody.
Agreed.
So if you want to put a little bit of money on the Browns, I don't know, they got to be like plus 2,000 or plus 2,500 for the Super Bowl. Like I don't think that's a crazy bet. I think that's a pretty smart futures bet in the playoffs. So look at where you can find odds, and hopefully you're in the green from the regular season and take some home run swings.
That Rams one sounds hot. That sounds hot. One
Making
thing,
some money, people.
Yeah, before I close up the shop, the things that were a commonality with the season and our playoff teams, with the exception of the Browns, is that all the playoff teams, their week 1 starter is their playoff starter, and the Steelers. So 2 teams, they found backup quarterbacks to ride. Even though Kenny Pickett is healthy, they're just like, nah, Mason Rudolph. But they could have been another team. But minus the Browns pulling Joe Flacco off the couch, health at the starting quarterback position was the key to playoff or regular season success. So I think that the market for backup quarterbacks just went up, and the market for running backs goes down even further. So,
and even look at not even just the best teams, but Tampa Bay and New Orleans. Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield played the whole season. Detroit, Jordan Love played the whole season. Goff played pretty much the whole season.
Yep.
So even those like mid-level teams still ended up doing pretty well because they had consistency at quarterback. So I think that's a really good point.
Quarterback health.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. And the only times that the Texans were getting boat race was when Stroud was out. So
yeah, and he only missed what, 2 games?
2. Yeah.
Tua played the whole season.
Yep.
There's another one, and Josh Allen continues to play full season. So
yep, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, all of them. Yep.
Yeah, not
so
surprising at
all.
Be
a big deal. Big deal this year. Plug the podcast before we go.
No Broken Legs. We're on YouTube. Jimmy and I will have our latest podcast with our picks and our best bets on Saturday.
Heck yeah, man. Make sure to check out my boys, Evan and Jimmy on No Broken Legs. Available, like I said, on YouTube and wherever you stream your favorite podcast. This has been the DFS Deli. Of course, your boy will be back tomorrow to break down the DFS picks because we got to gamble in picks. We got to gamble in props. And, of course, we're going to be building some lineups here tomorrow as well.
It's the playoffs, baby.
You tune in. It's the playoffs, baby. Stay tuned. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe on the way out. And, of course, we'll see you next time. Peace.